missing a Patek Philippe.
I am missing a Patek Philippe.
Here is my selection of watches as the
gosh.
Patek Home Shopping Network for Fred Savage.
If you're listening, he's just opened a briefcase of 6 of these most spectacular watches. This is so exciting. This is so cool.
It's so much fun picking
To
these
have
out for
have John Reardon pick out a Patek for you, this is really overwhelming. This is amazing.
Welcome back to the Collectability Podcast. Before we get started, I want to thank you for listening, and I have a personal favor to ask. Please push that subscribe button on the bottom corner of the screens. So if you love all things Patek Philippe, please push that button to ensure the future of this channel. Today, we have a very special guest. I am absolutely thrilled to have Fred Savage here on the Collectability Podcast today. For those of you that don't know, Fred Savage is an American actor, director, and producer, best known for his role as Kevin Arnold in the iconic TV series The Wonder Years, which was on 1988 to 1993. I must admit, I think the first time I met you on screen was watching The Princess Bride, which was, I think, just about a year before The Wonder Years started. Fred was born in July of 1976 in Chicago, and later transitioned in his career to directing, producing, and working on shows like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and of course, Modern Family. In addition to his TV career, Savage is a passionate collector of vintage watches, and that's one of the main topics we're going to discuss today. Last year, Fred launched Timepiece Grading Services, otherwise known as TGS, to the world, a company dedicated to bring more transparency to the vintage watch collecting community. Today, we're going to talk a bit about Fred's incredible career, the launch of TGS, and have a chat about Fred's first Patek Philippe, a watch that he has not yet purchased, but today we are going to discuss it, and Collectability is here to help. You know, Fred, I recall watching The Pilot in 1988 when I was 14 years old. I believe you were 12. The setting of the show is in 1968, which I must say is also the year the Golden Ellipse Patek Philippe was launched. So there's a tie-in right off the bat. And it was a coming-of-age story that unfolded over 6 decades. Along the way, we were with you as you discovered the universe of the world, and I'm sure you've heard this before many, many times, and our listeners can also relate. I felt like we grew up with you during those years, and I want to thank you for that because it was so much fun and so full of nostalgia for all of us. It is truly a pleasure and honor to have you on the show. Welcome, Fred.
It's really special to be here, John. I'm a huge fan of the show. And a huge fan of yours. I have tremendous respect for you as a scholar, as a collector, and as I've come to know you as a person and a dad. And I think it's a pleasure to know you, and it's an honor to be here. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Fred. And I have so many questions.
Yeah, please. Okay, let's go.
I was trying to, where do I start?
Yeah,
so I want to go back.
Yes,
to the Super Bowl, 1988. It was the Redskins and the Broncos.
That's right.
I believe.
Doug Williams. Yeah.
Wow, I remember that game. And right at the conclusion of the show on ABC, there was a launch of this pilot called The Wonder Years, and we're all like, "What is this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll give this show a try." And I was enamored. It took me to a time and place that I was unfamiliar with in 1968. And keep in mind for our listeners. All right, this is 1988. We're only going back 20 years to 1968, and it might as well have been another planet.
I feel the same way. Like now, when I think of 20 years ago was 2005.
Yes.
I don't know if it's my age, but that feels like yesterday. It doesn't feel like the world is very different. But from 88 to 68, it felt like it's a different planet. It just feels like 20 years now doesn't feel that different.
Yeah, 2005 is it was all the same. So I wonder, back in 88, did people feel like 1968 was yesterday?
I mean, I don't know if my parents did, but to me, as a 11, 12-year-old,
yes,
it felt like another universe. The clothes were foreign. The music was foreign. The politics were foreign. The world was foreign. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, my youngest was born in 2012, my 12-year-old son. And he, I asked him, when I say 2005, what does that mean to you? You know, are you thinking like, oh my God, you know, like we were driving Model Ts or something. Like, what does 2005 mean to you? And I don't know if it feels as foreign as it 20 years ago did to us then.
And the horological tie-in is real, because one of the most common topics and questions I'm sure you receive all the time is, what is a vintage watch?
Oh, yeah.
We kind of play with 20 years. And 20 years ago, like thinking of a vintage watch from 2005 is almost comical.
It doesn't, yeah.
But in 1988, if you went back 20 years, did an ellipse from the 68 feel vintage? I don't know.
Yeah, but also with modern watches, I think too. If you think of like, well, let's think about it like a 2005, like a sub. Like, is it that different than? It's a millimeter or the half of there. Yeah. Maybe the Daytona registers are a little larger, but it doesn't feel that much has changed as opposed to like, if you were in the 80s, like a 1960s sub, it's like a totally different thing.
It's extraordinary. And let's go back to the Super Bowl.
Okay, yeah. Right. Sorry. I'm jumping into watches. Okay.
We have to save watches for the middle part.
Sorry, I got excited.
Both of us just want to talk.
Okay,
watches.
But let's go.
But I have to know.
Yes.
You watched the game.
Yes.
Did you watch the pilot of the show with your family?
We did, of course.
And what was it like, and how did your life change after that?
It was thrilling. It was thrilling. I think one of the most. I remember, so when I first started acting, I did commercials in Chicago. I was like 6 years old. And I would do like print ads, like Sears catalogs or like inserts in like the Sun Times, the Chicago Sun Times. And I remember before my first commercial came out, which was for Pac-Man vitamins, I remember that I had an insert. It was like a Sears insert in the magazine, in the paper. And I remember my dad getting up like the crack of dawn to drive to the 7-Eleven to meet the truck, when they delivered the papers. And he, got one of the first ones, and we ran home and we tore it open. We're like, oh my God. And it was like literally like me with like, I think glasses and like a briefcase, like a back to school, like, the sport coat like tossed over my shoulder or something.
That is great.
And we were so enthusiastic. And I feel like it's been that way my whole career in show business. And after that, even that, like, it's that same excitement and enthusiasm of that very first catalog.
Do you still have a copy of that Pac-Man vitamin ad?
Oh, the Pac-Man vitamin ad is on YouTube. You can see that on YouTube. Oh yeah, it's there. And I look at it, I'm like, oh my God, this launched the whole thing. No, it's on YouTube. I don't know how many views it has, but it's searchable.
After this podcast, it's going to
blow up. And so, so when you saw that first episode, it was a thrill. It was like that. It was like getting that first, that catalog. It was every step along the way. It was a thrill, and it was a real success very quickly. The Wonder Years. That first season, we made 6 episodes, and it won the Emmy that year.
Wow.
And they changed the rules after that. That they changed the minimum number of episodes because I've done shows that make 24 episodes. It wasn't quite fair that 6 came out. But the point is, it made a big impact very quickly, and was known as one of the really great shows out there. So it was pretty life-changing in that the show became successful. I had to go and relocate to Los Angeles for the show. So it changed our life in a lot of ways.
And fast forward just 2 years later, and by the way, you're the first person that's been on the Collectability Podcast that has the honor of you hosted Saturday Night Live here in New York, a few miles away.
That's right. Yes.
You're the first person I've ever met that hosted Saturday Night Live.
Oh, great. Okay, good.
Super cool, because I'm a big fan of that show too. And you are. You're a kid. You're probably 14 years old.
I was
maybe
13. I was 13.
What was
crazy.
that like?
I mean, my dad used to wake me up to watch the Saturday Night Live when I was a kid. The Billy Crystal years, the Martin Short, Chris Guest,
great years.
Eddie Murphy. Like, he would wake me up, and I would, he would get in trouble. My mom would get mad, but I would watch those with my dad. And so even then, I'm 13. I was young, but I still knew that it was special. But it was great. I didn't know enough to be like terrified.
Yeah.
I just knew enough to be like, oh, this is really cool. And so it was great. It was fun. They're so good at how they put that show together. And I remember when I did it, I just went with my wife because they invited like former hosts. We were in New York a few weeks ago for the 50th anniversary concert.
There?
Yeah, at Radio City.
So cool.
It was so cool.
Everyone was there.
It was amazing. I was looking around the room and I said to my wife, like, can you believe we're here? Like everyone you could possibly think of was there. It was incredible.
That's cool.
And the cool thing about a room like that is everyone else was excited to be in the room. So like, you're looking around and there's like, John Hamm, who's just as starstruck, or, Tom Hanks, or, Post Malone. Like everyone, like no one could believe, everyone's excited to be there. And like the energy in a room like that is very cool. And so how did it even get here? We were talking about hosting Saturday Night Live.
Yes, exactly.
And so just doing it at the time, I remember it was the 15th anniversary, and everyone's like, oh my God, we've been doing it 15 years. I now just went to the 50th. So, I mean, it's crazy. But even then, they were so good at that. Yeah, it was very,
Who was the one celebrity you met that night that you're like, I cannot believe I'm talking to you, that you were starstruck?
The cold open was Church Chat, and I thought that was really cool. Like I was a big Church Chat fan, but I was a fan of all of theirs. Like I did stuff with Mike Myers, and like I mean, it was a great cast.
Dana Carvey was so fun. Just iconic,
legend.
That was
iconic.
So cool.
I remember, and I still have. I played his niece Enid, and I was dressed like the church lady, and I still have the costume.
That is wild.
I still have the costume. Yeah.
So during those Wonder years, you were probably, I don't know if you call it homeschooled, but you were like schooled in
tutors
studio.
and stuff.
Yeah. It's like you were having, the classroom was like between, and you were like in every single scene for years. But I understand around age 17, you went back to like normal high school.
That's right.
What was that like?
It was great. It was like I squeezed everything I wanted to do in high school in 1 year.
That was your senior year?
It was my senior year. Okay. So, I was on the football team, not a starter.
Really?
Not a starter. Yeah, I know. No, it wasn't a starter, but I was on the football team. Thank you for your disbelief, John. I was really...
No, I'm just picturing it's like...
no. Like, it's hard to imagine.
Go tackle Fred Savage.
It's hard to imagine. Oh, I did when I played. But I did football. Yeah. I ran for class president. I didn't win. I played Captain Hook in the school play. Like everything I wanted to do in high school.
1 year.
I jammed it in. So it was a lot of fun. It was great.
And you applied and were accepted to Stanford University.
Yep,
congratulations.
That's right.
What did you study there?
I was an English major.
Okay.
I was an English major at Stanford. I knew that I wanted to, I thought I wanted to continue in show business. And so that I wanted to direct and produce and be like a storyteller. And I figured the best way to do that is to study, the greatest stories written. And so I did. So I threw myself into it.
So you had almost a normal college experience, would you say?
Normal.
More or less.
Yeah, very normal college experience. I was in a fraternity. I was a knucklehead. I almost failed out freshman year, and I was like, oh God, I got to get it together. So yeah, very, very normal college experience. Really enjoyed it, and then I went back to work when I finished school.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I mean, you lived many lifetimes by the time I got my driver's license.
Yeah.
I mean, as a kid, you just had so many experiences. You saw so many people. I mean, even on the Wonder years, there's people like David Schwimmer. I didn't even realize he was on that show.
Great casting.
You were working with these people. Like as a kid, it's just really strange. Now you're a dad.
Now I'm a dad.
And your kids are kind of like the age that you were on that show.
That's the weirdest part.
And I think of the voiceover, how it's iconic. And in the Wonder years, there's the dad that, you.
Yeah.
He's like talking back retroactively of these experiences as a kid. Now you're kind of doing that in your own personal life with your kids, watching them go through these experiences.
Absolutely.
What's that like as a father?
I mean, I look at the kids. It's very strange when you're when I was doing my career as a kid. You're kind of going through it, and that's your experience. Like that's what you know. And everyone asks, like, is it so weird? Is it so strange? And like, it's just what I knew. That was just my life. And so it didn't feel strange to me at all. It was just what I was doing. But seeing my kids now, at 12 or 13, and thinking like, wow, like, the opportunities and also the responsibility, that was put on you at a really young age, you realize like, what 12 looks like, or 10 or 7 or even 16. Like, you see what it looks like. And when you're in it, you're like, you feel so old and so big and so mature and responsible. But when you see it in your kids, you're like, oh, these are really kids. And so it really brings home, only really is landing now as a dad, seeing what this age looks like, the opportunities and the responsibilities I had as a young kid. It's crazy.
It's when I told my daughters that I was going to speak to you today,
Yeah.
they're really excited, but they're like, is that Ben's brother?
It is Ben's brother.
So
yeah.
It's like this,
it's a generational thing.
It's a generational shift.
Totally.
And Boy Meets World has like its own like culture. We'll use the word cult.
Yes.
It's just like the Wonder Years.
Totally.
Now, like, have you had experiences with your brother? Like, you go out and some people run up to you and some people run up to him. Like, what's that like?
I get mistaken for Ben a lot.
Are you serious?
All the time. All the time. And I see people get so disappointed.
Yes.
Because they're like, are you Ben? Are you Ben? And I'm like, oh, no, that's my brother. And they're like, oh, okay. All right. Like, I really bum a lot of people out by not being Ben. But no, it's very cool. There are such unique experiences and unique ways to grow up, and to have, your brother doing the same thing. It's a great support system to have. Like, it's such an odd thing for anyone to be able to relate to, but there you have your brother, who kind of gets it.
He kind of had a parallel existence a few years later.
Absolutely.
So bizarre.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Didn't you do a commercial with him recently?
Yeah. We did
Can you talk about that?
We did a commercial for Goldfish, like the crackers.
It popped up on Instagram. I was in complete shock.
Yeah.
It was like kind of fun.
It was, and that was so fun. That was so fun to do with him. We did it a couple years ago, and it was so fun to do.
Oh, that is wild. Well, we're gonna move from goldfish to watches now.
Okay.
How's that for a soft pivot?
I mean, both delicious treats.
I wish this could be an entertainment only podcast because I have about 100 more questions.
Oh, I could talk to you forever.
We're going to talk about watches
okay.
now, because you started your watch collecting journey in probably when you were in LA.
Absolutely.
And I assume you're going to fill in the gaps of the story. You went to Want to Buy a Watch.
Yep.
And met Dr. Ken Jacobs.
The best.
And for those of you that do not know Ken Jacobs, he is a longtime dealer. He is such a pleasure. He happens to be hilarious, as he is brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, I think, the only watch dealer. I had to double check this, that he has a PhD in clinical psychology, which is absolutely insane.
So
and
yeah,
he turned that into watch dealing, which says a lot too.
It did start. It started with Ken, and he's the best. I mean, he has been. He got me into, collecting vintage watches, and he's been with me, like, the watch I wanted to get my son for his 18th birthday, he helped me with. The watch that my wife got me for my 40th. The watch that we just got each other for our 20th anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
He's been like every step of the way throughout our life.
And I understand. Crazy. I think he launched John Mayer's watch collecting too.
Did he really?
Among others.
All at Want to Buy. Yeah, Want to Buy Watch is his store.
We need to get him on the show too. Can you help me convince him to do it?
Easily.
All right, we'll do that. We'll do that.
He's the best. And guys, this infectious laugh that you'll love. Have you met him?
Many times.
Yeah,
yes.
He's the best.
So.
But yes, it started there. I wandered into a shop. It was on Melrose. It still is on Melrose, but a different part of Melrose. But wandered into a shop, fell in love with 1016 for the first time. I'd never seen one. I never really knew much about watches, but I thought that's a gorgeous watch. But it was way more money than I was going to spend on a watch. And I found these. He had a lot of these, and less so now, but a lot of these like early American watches. So like, Elgins and Illinois and Walthams and Hamiltons.
That's where I started. I love
really?
That. So you collected wristwatches, I
yes.
assume? Okay.
Yeah, wristwatches.
Yes.
And so I bought an Illinois that I still have, my daughter wears, for like a few $100.
Mm-hmm. And
the dial was stained, but it had those great filigreed case and these beautiful hands, and I loved it. Really had lived a life. It was not like a mint condition watch by any stretch.
And for not a lot of money, you get such a great watch that you could wear.
And it all kind of clicked for me. Like I had no idea. Like this had been made, I don't know, was like 80 years prior and is still working. And I really started to fall in love with the storytelling behind watches. The history behind these watches. Not the watchmaking or the history of The brands that came later, but just the storytelling of whose wrist this was on over the course of the previous 80, 90 years. And so
Did you ever buy a provenance piece, like something that belonged to someone else that of note?
Absolutely.
Yes.
But I have a lot of conversations, and I love your take on it, of there's a tipping point and you don't know where it's provenance. When does it become like memorabilia? You know what I mean?
True.
And I talk a lot about like, because the line is somewhere and it's always different for whatever watch or whoever owned it. And so I'm always cautious of like, is it provenance or is it memorabilia?
At auction, we would never estimate the provenance into the value of the watch.
You would grade it as a watch.
You grade it as a watch, or you'd estimate it as a
Right.
watch, and then just let the room and the emotion take over with the provenance.
Right.
But it gets really tricky when you talk about like Gandhi's pocket watch.
Right.
I mean, it's like, all right, it's worth $10, but it's sold for millions for
Sure.
obvious reasons. So it's a fine line, and
there's
it's all about
storytelling.
emotion, and there's no comp.
Provenance for sure. I mean, we all get caught up in the
Yes.
romanticism of it, you know?
When did you make the pivot from, you start like American, Illinois, Hamilton, Walthams, and then I assume you bought some 1016s, and like when did you make the pivot to the more expensive Swiss watches?
It wasn't. So I would noodle around with, then I started to buy watches that were maybe like I don't know. I remember when I got like an Omega Flightmaster, that was like another step up. And, it was all these like little steps, but always guided by like stuff I thought that was interesting or different or kind of cool. I wasn't like, I was building like my grail list, but I was never chasing hype or anything. It was the opposite. It was like, I want to find watches that I love that aren't like crazy expensive, that I still think are interesting and cool. And that's how I ended up with the Flightmaster or a lot of this early stuff, Ennicars and Certinas and all these, like, I found these really cool, brands that I wouldn't never have really stumbled upon if I was chasing the big boys, And so, but it wasn't until my 40th birthday that my wife got me at the 1016.
She got it.
She got it for me, which I took.
That's nice.
It was so nice.
Wow.
And I took that as a blessing.
Yeah, now you have permission to
go
for it. Yeah.
She did not intend that to be the message. I think her intention was she knew I loved it. For our wedding, she got me a Bell & Ross 123 that looked like a 1016. That was kind of like our working man's 1016. And for our 40th, she goes, I know you've always wanted this, and here's this. So I was like, great, you're saying I can go nuts. And so I did. And so that kind of kicked me up into the next level of like collecting Swiss watches. And then the dam really broke.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Usually I save this to the end, but I'm just dying to know. What are you wearing today?
So I'm wearing one of these watches I was just mentioning. I'm wearing Certina just because I felt like, as you know, I don't have a Patek, which we'll get into. I would have worn that. But I just felt like this really represented my collecting style. You know what I mean? Like it's different.
That is a beautiful dial.
I mean,
clear to read.
The K shape is really cool. It's got kind of like a Certina Jubilee type bracelet.
What year approximately?
I think like probably 70s, early 70s. But it's got a great dial. This orange second hand against a blue dial. Really,
I love that.
It's so cool. And like this is like for me, like this really. I wanted to wear something that I felt like represented me as a collector. You know what I mean? Like not great, not insanely expensive, not like a competing with the next guy kind of watch. Just something that like struck me as different and interesting. And cool.
What a great bracelet. And I have a soft spot for blue dials, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
And that just, that is great.
Yeah, I love this watch. Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah, thank you. This is a really coal one.
So in life, as in the watch world, sometimes I'm a big believer in this. The biggest like challenges, the disasters that occur to us are such teachable moments
100%.
that actually lead to opportunities.
Yeah.
Like every closed door is another open door. And I'm going to borrow a word that you've used on multiple interviews.
Okay.
That is a word that no one else I've ever heard use. And that is the word crestfallen.
Oh.
Which is it's a heartbreaking word.
Yeah,
I had to even look up, I know what it means, but I had to check the dictionary. Like, what is crestfallen?
Was I using
really
it
mean?
right, John?
You used it 100%
Okay, good.
correct.
Okay, good.
Yes, as
Thank
expected.
You. All right, great.
Stanford grad.
Thank you.
And the word crestfallen really captures an experience in your life that opened up a huge door. And that's my segue to ask you to tell the story of how TGS was born.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Well, I mean, it's not a foreign story, to anyone really in watches. Where I bought a watch from a really kind of trusted place. I bought my first watch at auction, and I felt like I was such a big shot. And I was like, oh, I've really arrived as a collector. And I was showing the watch to people. I have my little phone, watch folder on your phone, like we all do, and we're showing people the photos. And someone's like, oh yeah, no, that had been redialed, and I didn't really even know what that meant. And I knew a little bit about watches. I knew enough that I thought I could buy a watch at auction, and I think people are listening is like, well, you really weren't ready to buy a watch at auction. I wasn't. I mean,
and it was a white gold Rolex.
It was an 1803. Yeah,
1803.
exactly. It was an 1803. And I'm like, what do you mean it's been redialed? And they showed me the serifs on the. I didn't even know what a serif on a dial was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I was, in a word, John, crestfallen, because I was like, who are you supposed to trust? And I made it my business to really get to know the best people out there. And I was looking around. I was at, Rolly Fest. You were there. Were you there a couple years ago?
I've never gone to Rolly Fest.
Oh my gosh, you gotta go.
I don't think they'd let me through the door.
What?
We have to ask Jeff.
No, you're coming. We're gonna sneak you in.
Can I borrow a Rolex?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But I looked around the room and I was like, oh wow, I'm really got to a place where the best scholars, dealers, collectors are one, if not two phone calls away, But I realized not everyone knows an expert. And I looked at all the other collectibles, whether it's coins or sports cards or comic books or video games or VHS tapes or handbags or shoes or, cars. Every collectible had one, if not multiple, third-party authentication and condition grading services. And watches, are still predicated on you buy the dealer. And, not everybody knows John Reardon, that you can trust and buy from and be very confident that you have exactly what you think you're getting. And I think that people who want to buy watches on the secondary market deserve, that same peace of mind that I did when I sat down and bought my wife's engagement ring, and I had my GIA cert, and I sat across someone who had been dealing watches or dealing gems for 40 years, and I could have a thoughtful conversation about occlusions and, the ratio between the plane and the foot of the diamond. And, I didn't know what I was talking about, but I felt empowered and confident in that conversation. And I think anyone buying a watch on the secondhand market deserves that same sense of confidence, or the confidence that someone has buying an X-Men comic book. Like someone buying, a Rolex or a Patek or an AP or anything on the secondary market should have that same level of confidence. And so I started a company called Timepiece Grading Specialists, TGS, to try and deliver that same level of confidence to both the experienced and inexperienced watch buyer on the secondary market.
So when I first heard whispers that you were working on this, and
Yeah.
we spoke early on.
Yeah.
Because I've explored this question.
You told me.
And I think I was probably, I don't want to say negative. I was like, this is not going to happen.
Yeah.
I remember the conversation. I probably wasn't as encouraging.
No, it wasn't
as I
negative. It was just like you were just
words of caution.
Yeah, like this is going to be a bumpy road.
Yes.
Because you were relating me your own experiences. So I wasn't off-put by it. It wasn't discouraging at all. I didn't take it at all. But I took it as like it's fraught, and that's true. I mean, you were very honest, which I appreciated.
Only when I heard your interview with Waco Revolution, you're walking along Lake Geneva, that your sound bites were clear. I could tell you really believed in what you're doing, and you came up with a process that works. And you said music to my ears, because you weren't saying this is for the 7-figure watches. You're like, for some people, like if they want to buy a $5 million watch, they have like their circle of advisors.
100%.
But this is for like everybody else, whether you're buying a $5,000 watch or even a little under.
Yeah.
This is a process that you're essentially offering and selling. It's kind of useful for almost everybody that just wants a little word of advice.
That's
and
right.
a certificate that has a very strong opinion based in fact. So
I want people to feel like they have an expert in their pocket.
Yes.
And if you're buying a 7-figure watch, there are lots of people, yourself, included, who know every set of hands that have touched that watch, from the guy who signed the back of the dial to the guy who's, owning it now. Every pair of hands. And so that market doesn't need my help. But I think where we can be additive is, like I said, for the marketplace from $5,000 watch up to $100,000 watch. Those are people who I think could, would appreciate a peace of mind that the watch is everything that they expect it to be, and not just in terms of if it's correct or authentic, but condition. One person's scratch is another person's gouge, and one person might not care if it's polished, and one person might want it spit shined, and doesn't care if the chamfers are soft. Condition is really in the eye of the beholder. And so when we take a watch in, we have our watchmakers open it up. We photograph the watch, completely. We annotate all the photos, and we grade it on. We have a weighted scale. We grade it on 13 different components. So everything gets a grade. Put it into a weighted average. The watch gets 1 score, and we send it back to the owner with a card, watermarked card, giving you all the information about the watch, the grade, and a QR code that links to this document that people have really found valuable.
How long does this process take?
5 days.
Really?
Yeah, net of shipping. Shipping, 5 days. And
is it available internationally at this point, or are you keeping it U.S. only?
It's available internationally. Yeah, okay. Please.
And how much does it cost?
It's a sliding scale. It starts at $300 for watches up to $10,000 in value. And then it goes up from there. And we don't value the watch. We don't buy a watch. We don't sell it. We just look at it as an object. And so the owner tells us what it is, and we insure it for that amount in shipping. And so it's a sliding scale on that. And people, the collectors, the owners have found it really valuable. But sellers of watches, whether it's a online marketplace, jewelry store that has a small, pre-owned case, have found the document really helpful in answering a lot of questions from their clients. What could become a hour conversation on the phone or on the floor can be very short. You just send the document, say, here's the watch, kind of warts and all.
It's like GIA?
Yeah, exactly. Just like GIA. Like, what do you, this is what it is. And it really also comes from an idea of, I think there's a buyer for every watch. If a watch comes in that's a bogus watch, obviously we're not going to we'll send that back. But if it's got a service dial, if it's been polished, if it doesn't run that well, if it's got a replacement crown, if it's got an aftermarket bezel, like there's a buyer for that watch. They should just know what the watch is. My sister, wants to buy a root beer GMT for her husband for his birthday. So I'm showing her different watches, and she goes, why is that one $15,000 and that one's $11,000? I'm like, oh, that's a service bezel. You don't want that. She goes, why not? And I'm like,
just want to wear it.
I'm like, yeah, why not? Like, she's doesn't have the sickness that we do. That's got to be all original. Like, she's like, it's a service bezel. She goes, it looks exactly the same, and I keep $4,000. Why wouldn't I want that? I'm like, you're right. She just shouldn't pay the all original price. And so I want people to know, what they're getting, what they're selling, and I think that if we do this right, we will lower the barrier of entry for people who want to buy a watch on the secondary market, but are kind of kept at bay by the opacity of it.
Yes.
And so they say, I don't want to get burned. I don't really know. So they'll take that money and they'll go on a trip, or they'll go buy something else. So that I feel like there's people who want to kind of jump in the pool, but don't, because they don't quite know enough. And so my hope is to, give the people in the market already a greater peace of mind, but also empower those people who want to get in and know that you can, and you can do it with all the confidence of any expert.
What percentage is Rolex of so far? You've been up and running 4 or 5 months?
2 months, at the end of January.
2 months?
Yeah, just been 2 months, sure.
Okay, so you don't have like much data to back up, but how much of it is Rolex?
Not as much as I thought.
Really? I would have guessed 50%.
I would have guessed, and by the way, in a year from now, maybe it does that. I also am really surprised. We're getting a lot more vintage. I thought we would be deluged with Omega Seamasters and no date subs from 2012.
That's what's out there.
That's what's out there. But we're getting Vacherons from the 40s, and 6263s, and even random this Mormac jump hour from the 20s.
Sounds cool.
It's been this really incredible.
Any Patek Philippe yet?
We got one Patek Philippe.
All right, what was it?
It was what was it? It wasn't one that I knew. I'll show you. I'll make sure we did it.
Cool.
We did a good job. But that just came in. But I'm surprised at the number of vintage. So it's a lot of this is a watch my uncle gave me. Like, what do I? It's a lot of like, what do I have? You know, and so it's been really fun to kind of give this sense of kind of knowledge to the clients, and they say, "Oh, I had no idea what this even was. Thanks so much. This is so cool." And they'll send us other ones and say, "Well, what is this and what is that?" Or you get these great stories. My dad gave this to me at graduation. What was it? And it turned out to be like a first series Piaget Polo, but like the quartz, like the original. That was just, and the guy had no idea what he had. So it's been really fun. It's been really great.
So the business is based in Ohio,
Dayton, Ohio,
with your partners, I would say, Stahl.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us? Most people know about Stahl, but some of our listeners internationally might not. Tell us about the Stahl and why you chose to work with them for this undertaking.
When I started with this idea, before I even thought it could be a real thing, I knew I needed watchmakers to help me.
An army.
And I needed an army. Yeah. So I went all over the country. I was in Miami and Chicago and New York and San Francisco and Kansas City, Dallas. There's a big training facility in Dallas. And everyone was great at, had an expertise in something, but not another, And so I didn't want to send watches all over the place. I knew I needed kind of a one-stop shop. I didn't even think it existed really, except in Dayton, Ohio. And I went and I met Ron and Emily Stahl. And Ron Stahl is just this incredible guy who taught himself how to work on watches in a closet under the staircase of the farmhouse he grew up in rural Indiana.
Wow.
Yeah. And from that like humble beginning, he has built an army, like you said, of watchmakers in Dayton, Ohio. And
how many watchmakers?
He has, he's always hiring more. I think they've cracked 40 now.
Wow.
And you'll have like an expert in Omega sitting next to a guy who's done nothing but Breitling for 35 years, next to a guy who's done nothing but Rolex for 20. I mean, you have an expert in virtually every luxury brand. And it's the premier service center.
I want to have lunch there and talk to these guys.
You should come.
These men and women, I'm sure. It would be amazing.
Come to Dayton. It's an amazing. He's built an incredible facility of not just technical experts, but it's just a great culture. I mean, Ron and his daughter Emily are incredible people, and they became the premier service center in the country. They service 15,000 watches a month there. A month. It's insane,
Wow.
And that's an old figure. I mean, it's probably more now. And as a result of kind of the depth and breadth of their expertise, the eBay authentication program is run out of there also. So they have terrific experts, they have great watchmakers, and so we partnered with them, and that's how I ended up in Dayton. So
I understand you have a high status on Spirit Airlines.
I did, but crushingly, I was gold. Didn't want to bring it up, but since you did. But they discontinued their direct flights from LA to Columbus.
That's horrible.
It's heartbreaking.
So how do you get there?
I fly through. Now I'm flying through Dallas. I'm flying through Chicago. Like it's a lot of because I'm my family's still in LA, so I'm back and forth a lot.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm changing flights. It's not great.
That's a lot of travel for you. Wow.
Now I've got all these points. I've got all this status on Spirit Airlines. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what to do with it. So if anyone needs like drink coupons, or anything on Spirit, let me know and we can figure out a deal. Because I have all these points.
This screams for a giveaway.
I got nothing to do with them. Because the whole appeal for me, Spirit, if you're listening, was the direct flight LA to Columbus. That's why. John, I went all in. I got the credit card. I went all in trying to amass my points.
Back.
Please.
Let's change the world. Let's bring it back.
I've got so many points and this Spirit credit card. I have nothing to do with it now.
But it sounds like Dayton is a center of watchmaking. There must be a community around. I mean, there's so many watchmakers around this incredible undertaking that maybe there'll be more people going to Dayton.
I mean,
for watch reasons.
We had a guy who didn't want to send watches to us. He was nervous to put them in the mail. Watch guys are very eccentric, and watch people are very eccentric for whatever reasons. So he drove them to us.
Oh, that's great.
So he came to Dayton and waited in the parking lot as we did his watches over during a day, which is a crazy day, but a really fun one. But yeah, I mean, it's I think it's a credit to Ron and Emily and what they've built. It's a great culture there. Mm-hmm. No one sells the Midwest like Ron Stahl. He can convince someone to move to Dayton he has watchmakers from all over the world, from Geneva, from Paris, from London, from New York, and he's got them all to come live in and around Dayton, Ohio. Some Cincinnati, some Columbus, points in between. But yeah, he sells it like nobody else.
Now, I can imagine your business can grow in so many different directions. Other than authentication, do you offer repair while you have the watch? Do you offer appraisals, storage? The list goes on.
Yeah, all of that actually.
Okay.
All of that. We can appraise. We can obviously service if someone wants to watch service, because it's coming to this incredible service center anyway. So yeah, once we have the watch, we can, the core of it, like kind of our special skill, is the authentication and grading, condition grading. But while it's there, we can offer service. We can vault it if people want us to vault their watches. We can appraise them. So yeah, there's a bunch of like additional services that we can offer.
Let's talk about George Foreman.
Okay, let's do
passed away. Are you ready for this tie-in?
I have a take, but yeah, tell me. Yeah, let's go.
He was a great fighter, one of the greatest.
One of the greatest.
And it's sad that we've lost him at a young age, 76.
I had no idea he was that.
Yes.
I always thought he was so much older.
Yes.
76 was young. I had no idea. It's crazy.
See, at our age, 76 doesn't seem so old now.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
May he rest in peace. And
a legend.
I was reading about the lean, mean grilling machine that we all know was George Foreman's, we'll call it second or third act.
Mm-hmm.
He made over $200 million off the George Foreman grill and those amazing infomercials that became iconic. And here's the tie-in to you, Fred. I was thinking, here's something outside of the entertainment world. This is your third act, if you call it that.
Yeah.
With watches. And I think you're onto something big.
Look, if this could be my George Foreman grill or my Thigh Master,
It could be a Thigh Master.
Which was Suzanne Summers' huge business, or my my Jane Fonda workout tapes, or let me have like a more relevant, or my Casamigos, you know what I mean? Then great. But I will tell you, it's a business, and we want the business to do well, but really it started from I wanted to try to solve a problem I had as a collector, and I feel like if we do this right, I think we can really benefit the watch community. And really, that's what I want. I had a great career. I have a great career. I spent 40 years in entertainment. It was 40 years. And I feel like after 40 years of any career, you get your gold watch and you go move to Florida. But I'm because I started so young, I still am a 40-year veteran, pretty young. So, I feel like I have another, crack at maybe another business, another opportunity, another career. And so, so if this can be that, terrific. But really, if I can look back in 5, 10, 20 years and say, I really did something to benefit the watch community and the collector out there, I really think I will have achieved something. It's a community that I've come to really love and has enriched my life and my family's lives in a multitude of ways. And so if I can do something positive for that community, I feel like I will have really accomplished something.
The world of vintage collecting is getting bigger, arguably bigger than even the primary market.
Yeah.
And it just keeps growing. I have no doubt that if someone could bring confidence, market confidence through an authentication service, that it will change everything in the collecting world. And I think others have tried it. But I think especially what you're doing in Dayton, Ohio, you're doing it in a big, scalable, repeatable way.
Yeah.
My bet's on you.
And look, John, you've been so supportive from the moment we've met and the moment you heard about this, and your encouragement and support and fair warnings have all been really appreciated. And I thank you for that. It means a lot to hear you say that. And like I said, this has been a great community, and I hope we can benefit it. I hope we can do something for it, because it's done so much for me.
Even if you bring just one person, which has probably happened already, into the world of collecting because they feel a little confidence, they're like, okay, I have some checks and balance in what I'm buying.
Yeah.
Then that's a huge success. But then it could repeat to hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, and let's just see what happens over the coming years.
That's the hope, is that if anyone is buying a watch on the secondary market, says, well, has this been graded by TGS?
Yes.
Just like if you wanted to buy, you could buy some studs or something, but if you want to spend real money like on a diamond, you'd be a fool, unless you were a gemologist, to not buy a GIA diamond. And I hope to establish that same thing for watches on the secondary market.
Now we're going to segue to something that's missing in your life. I know. You're missing a Patek Philippe.
I am missing a Patek Philippe, and I have consciously not gotten a Patek for two reasons. One, I didn't know much about them, and I don't know a lot about them because it feels like this just untouchable thing. Like to even say the words coming out of my mouth feels, inadequate. And also, I'm waiting for an occasion, and I never knew what the occasion was, but it hasn't happened yet. And I think it's because I'm waiting for John Reardon to hand select what I need. This could be the moment. And you told me you were going to pick out watches for me.
Yes. So I've chosen 6 timepieces and written down here 5 questions that I wanted to ask you. This is kind of like, remember the old Choose Your Own Adventure book?
I love those, of course.
And
yes.
we're going to steer you.
Let's do it.
Into the right watch. So first, and you almost just answered this. The first question is, why do you want a Patek Philippe?
I want a Patek Philippe because I've been waiting for one, I feel like it has to commemorate something special, something important. And I just want it to be kind of a marker for a reminder of something that momentous that has happened, like
50 is around the corner.
50 is right around the corner. And so it might be that, but I want it, like, I feel like, I think that's what I've been saving is like, I don't know if I've earned it yet, but when I do have it, it will be a reminder and a marker that I've earned whatever that thing is,
My second question dovetails with that.
Okay.
Is, will you wear it all the time or just on special occasions?
Or
depends what it is?
I think it probably depends what it is, but I feel like, and I look at my collection, and there's maybe 1 or 2 watches that I wouldn't pull out any day of the week. And I want something I can wear. Like, I don't want something that's going to sit in a vault, you know what I mean? And that I have to be, I have friends who are collectors who wear watches, and when they go to like a concert and they don't clap because they don't want to disturb the loom, on their watch. And I understand that. I understand that impulse,
that. Yeah.
But I don't want that watch. You know what I mean? I want a watch that, like, I'm not going to go climb rocks with it.
Yes.
But something I can wear and not be afraid to wear. All right.
What's the ideal millimeter size for a watch for you?
Well, so here's where some confusion comes in, because I would say, I have watches all the way down to like 34 that I like wearing. So it depends on I think it depends on the layout of the watch.
Okay.
But I have a hard time, and I'm hoping one of these is an ellipse. I think one might be an ellipse in there. I'm hoping.
You know me too well.
Yeah, I'm hoping. But I have a very hard time imagining the right oval size.
Okay.
So I don't know on the ovals, but I would say like 36 to 38, 39 would be a good size.
Okay. The next question. Are you a case, dial, or movement guy?
Great question. I'm gonna be shallow. I feel like you asked me like looks or personality, and I'm gonna.
That's why I'm laughing. Yeah. It's like a ridiculous.
And I'm
question.
gonna be shallow. Dial.
Okay.
I'm a dial guy. Like the dial has to speak to me, and so the movement inside, I appreciate the movements. Yes. But a lot of my watches, to be perfectly honest, like I don't have a lot of like display back watches. So there's something romantic that I love about the work that the watchmakers put in to make beautiful bridges and for things no one will ever see. And I love the romantics of that. But I know that if we're talking Patek, we're having a beautiful movement regardless. Okay. So I'm going to say dial.
It's all about the dial. Okay.
Which I feel makes me very, very shallow. Not, but that's, I'm here. I can't lie to you.
All right. This is kind of like a therapy session.
Okay. Yeah. Does that make me shallow? Is it okay to say dial?
It's okay to say dial. I was going to guess case, but you know what? The dial is sometimes the most important part of the watch.
The dial has to speak to you. The case, I don't discount any one of them. The case would be next. And so like I've looked at watches and the lugs just feel disproportionate and it doesn't feel quite right. But again, like we're talking about Patek Philippe's. I know it's going to be great. So the differentiator, like there's not going to be like a junky Patek case. Like, oh, that's garbage. Like, so for me, the differentiator is going to be the dial.
My fifth question.
Oh gosh.
Will anyone else wear this watch but you?
I hope so. Yeah, of course. Next generation, of course. Absolutely.
You walked right into that question,
Okay,
answered it brilliantly. Thank you for that.
I hope so. Absolutely. No, this is not. This will be son, daughter, wife if she steals it from me. So yes, I hope so.
Okay. And then my final question, when I finally open up the choices,
this is such a tease.
Here,
I'm so excited. This is come on.
What is which watch speaks to you?
Yeah.
But before we open the box, I wore today a watch. I was trying to think what's like a cool piece from the 60s and 70s.
Right.
We'll talk about the 60s in a second.
Oh gosh. I mean,
I wanted to show you this amazing 3700.
That's of course.
This is like so easy from 1977. And I could just see you as an everyday watch wearing a Nautilus. And now that prices have kind of stabilized.
A 3700, one of the watches I was telling you that I don't wear every day is an A series 5402.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Because I'm a vintage collector. I know people always want like the newest, the best, the coolest, but I like to go to like the roots of the family tree. Like where did it begin? And for, if someone offered me a 5711, this is what I would want, is the 3700. I want to know where it began, you know? And so just for me as a collector, this is where people like, I don't have a Daytona, you know what I mean? But if I wanted the Daytona, it'd be the double Swiss, like the first one, right? Like I like to go to the beginning because I look at my 5402 and I'm like, from this was born all these incredible Royal Oak collection. And so this speaks to me in so many, it's gorgeous, but it also speaks to me, what I love about collecting is going to the beginnings,
And that's why it's the first watch I wanted to show you, because like a 3700 is the easy suggestion.
Yeah.
It's getting more and more difficult to find nice examples, especially with exceptional dials. And, I could just see you wearing that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and you could clap with it, and the loom won't come off.
Yeah, I know. I want I feel like I'm around so many exciting things that I always want to applaud, spontaneously, and so this would allow me to do it. This is killer. I'll tell you something. My wife years ago saw someone wearing a woman we were having breakfast with a rose gold Nautilus, and it might have been a 3800. I don't know if it was the 37. Is that something that exists?
Most likely a 3800.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and that's been the watch that she's coveted.
Yes.
And I feel like if I want to stay married, which I do right now, I think, today, but I need, before I get myself a Nautilus, I need to get her that rose gold 3800. Okay. Do those exist? Are those out there?
Yeah. 3800 line 1R, and they're few and far between. But yes, I think she's next on the list. But if we could do like a his and hers situation, that would be great.
This is a stunner. This is a no-brainer.
His and hers makes sense because then you have a son and a daughter too. So the whole intergenerational thing.
And this is I wouldn't expect nothing less coming off of your wrist, John, but this is like spectacular condition. This is amazing.
But you read the storyline directly because, of course, there's ellipse in here. Because when I was looking at Wonder Year started in 1968, he really needs a nice early ellipse in his collection.
Yes, but is the early one too big? That's my big question.
Too small for you, I think. The early one.
Oh, it's too small. When did the jumbos?
That happened 1977, 78, and that's one of my next suggestions for you. So here is my selection of watches as the Patek Home Shopping Network for Fred Savage.
Wow. Buy now. We can get some steak knives.
And a George Foreman grill.
Oh, my gosh.
So this is a 3738 with a Gublin dial from 1977. So this is like the smaller size, but it's automatic. And
this is so cool. If you guys are listening, I'm the only person in the world, by the way, who listens to podcasts. I now know everyone watches on YouTube. I'm the only guy that listens. If you're listening, he's just opened a briefcase of 6 of these most spectacular watches. This is so exciting. This is so cool.
It's so much fun picking these
out
for you.
Have John Reardon pick out a Patek for you. This is really overwhelming. This is amazing.
And it was painful for me not to pick out a pocket watch for you to try, but I was like, no, we're gonna start with a wristwatch.
Okay.
Pocket watch comes down the road. So here's the 3738 on a bracelet, which you could try on. I mean, this is fun because it kind of harkens back to like the 60s and 70s. So here's the ellipse for you to try on. But I was thinking,
Tell me about this bracelet.
I know, isn't that beautiful? It's handmade mesh Patek Philippe bracelet. These were typically made by Atelier Réuni, which is where the Patek Philippe Museum is today. You've been to the museum.
I have gone to the museum.
Excellent. Just want to make sure.
Of course. All right, now tell me about this dial size.
So this is the mid-size, which we call it today. The 3738 has been like, is that going to fit?
Yeah. I just gotta lift that clasp.
Oh, okay. Has a little safety clasp.
Yeah.
This is for someone like I like to wear the 3738 size. Your wrist, are you like 7.25 inch wrist?
Yeah.
Okay. Which is
how
exactly
hot it
what
is
that
outside.
size. Yes. So I'd say it's a little small
You think?
on you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were going black tie,
Right.
This is a perfect kind of watch that you could wear. But for an everyday watch, now that I see it on, I don't think this is your everyday watch.
Okay.
So I prefer the 3700 on you, and
All
that's
right.
not an upsell. That's just my. We're just talking about the watches.
No, we're talking about the watches. We're talking about the watches.
But the next piece I have for you is, I think, the one that will fit you perfectly, and that is a reference 3605 Jumbo, from the late 70s.
Mm-hmm.
This is the watch I wore this past weekend. We had the HSNY.
You wore this to you
gala,
wore this one to the
and
gala?
I fell in love with it. My wife's like, you need to keep that watch. But you know what? I can't keep every watch. So I think this one could be right for your wrist. So please try on a 3605 automatic from the 70s.
So, which is very interesting, is you've got 3 ellipses, or that's the
This is a Nautilus.
A Nautilus,
Yeah, save
yeah.
that. That's for
so
hybrid.
but they don't have the blue dial, which to you is so iconic. Tell me why you strayed from the blue dial. I feel like if you're going to get the ellipse,
Yes.
do it, but you've got a white dial and 2 gold dials.
I think a 3605 of the blue dial,
Mhm.
you could make the argument that makes sense.
Right.
This is just the one I happen to have, which is the gilt dial. But that monochrome look really works. It kind of makes it more informal, I would almost describe.
It's so cool.
It's beautiful. But
and you like this proportionately better.
yes, that fits your wrist.
Mhm.
I think that really, really works. But if we wait for a blue dial, that makes sense. That makes sense. The blue dial is what the
That's
ellipse
like
is
the,
all
that's
about.
like
Yes.
for in my mind, that's what it's all about.
Yes. But this is good for you to see the size and the proportion of
Yes.
the 3605.
But
So
you like this better.
I'm sold on that size over the 3738
Mhm.
size for you.
36.
And it has the date, and interestingly, the exact same caliber as the Nautilus. It
Really?
says the 28255. They both have the same automatic caliber with date. Both of these watches share the same. All right.
All right, let's go.
The third is the wild card on the tray, and that is a reference 3770J from circa 1980. And this is the hybrid of the Ellipse and the Nautilus, as you know, designed by Gerald Genta.
And what were they? Why the combo? Like, what were they trying to address?
Oh, it was a strange period in time. They were
Really?
trying to have the at that point in time, late 70s, the Ellipse took over the whole Patek Philippe line.
Mhm.
Everything was Ellipse. The Nautilus wasn't selling so well because this was considered too big, too chunky. So what they wanted to do is have a sports watch that can kind of integrate within a dress watch. And thus this hybrid
They
was
kind
born.
of combined both of them.
And why they picked a quartz movement for the 3770 is that they're only available in quartz is shocking.
The Nautilus was only in quartz.
That's it. Only quartz. They never made an automatic or manual.
So was this like early 80s? Was this during?
It's like
was this,
1980 to 84. These
so it was
were
like
quite
quartz
popular.
crisis-y time.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
But
And
I never thought that Patek was as susceptible to that.
We all forget about it now, but they were fighting for sales like everyone else, especially in the late 70s, early 80s. Were not easy times thanks to the quartz crisis. So a watch like this was trying to fill in a gap as they were trying to discover what their next market could be. And
so
it
interesting.
never took off. Not many were made. I happen to love them because they're just so quirky.
Yeah.
They're so outside of the box. For you, this would not be your everyday watch.
It's no. What's the size? This is the same size as the Goo one.
Essentially the same size.
Yeah.
37, 38. You could pull that off, but I would. I think you need the bracelet version. If you're gonna wear a Nautilus, you get.
Really?
There's a two-tone version, an all steel version, which is one of my favorite.
This is really cool, but I don't know. I mean, you asked me about dial case movement. I don't know if my first Patek Philippe watch is a quartz watch. I don't think that's my first.
I agree.
Not to be a snob, quartz are great.
Yes.
But I feel like for my first, if I'm gonna do it, it's not gonna be a quartz watch.
Yes.
The first one.
This is kind of like the fourth or fifth watch.
Yeah.
We have
exactly.
kind of fun.
But it's a great piece of history. But you were talking about the Patek Philippe Museum. There were a few of my favorite moments when I was walking through there. And one of my favorite moments was at the height of the quartz crisis. Patek said, "Screw you guys. We're going to make the most complicated pocket watch ever produced." And to me, that was such a baller move. When everyone's panicking and everyone's, what are we going to do? We're going to be like, we're not
going to double down and triple down.
We're going to, I mean, we are not going to buy into any of that. In fact, we're going to go the total opposite way. And I just thought that was just a throwdown, just put your money where your mouth is move.
I'm so glad you said that, because we've said, and thank you for listening to our content. It means the world, because you understand how 1989 and the Caliber 89 was such a pivotal point in Patek Philippe's history. And for the management of the company, the Stern family, to double down at that period of time when things were difficult is extraordinary.
Yeah.
And they're still living through that success now, like 40 years on. It's incredible.
That was one of my favorite moments in the museum. Just seeing that watch and then understanding the context in which it was made is just like, whoa. Like, that's a real baller move.
And it worked out. It was brilliant.
It worked out brilliantly.
Because I didn't know where this conversation would go.
Okay.
What the perfect watch for you. So I brought some modern pieces. And one, a lot of people ask me, they're like, "John, if I could have one watch, what should it be?" And some people are uncomfortable wearing vintage pieces.
Right.
So I was like, the watch you need is a 5196. You have a white metal wedding band. You put on a 5196 with it. This is a watch that is timeless. Design-wise in the 50s as it is today and 50 years from now. This is a time traveler watch.
This is my style. Like, this is so simple and classic and elegant. The sub-seconds makes it, like, without it, it would maybe be missing it, but this feels like such a complete. The dial's gorgeous. But they've been making these, like, why did you pick this one? Because you could get this dial layout throughout. Like, this is what you.
What's amazing in the line today? There's no classic Calatrava. Doesn't exist.
Yeah, this would be considered like a Calatrava, a classic Calatrava.
You can't go to a Fifth Avenue Patek Philippe boutique and buy the classic Calatrava today. The 5196 was like the last of the time onlys, going back to that 1932 lineage, starting with the reference.
When was this made? When was this watch made?
This one's about 2010. So I could just see that as an everyday watch for you.
I think that's stunning.
Casual, you dress up, whatever you want. The 5196 is there for you.
This is a stunning watch.
37 millimeters. The size is perfect for you. So,
and if you were to go back and find this watch in, the 50s or the 60s, is it much smaller? Like, what's the difference?
You would probably, if you wanted to go vintage, go with the reference 570G, the white gold 570. And you had two choices. You can go sub-seconds or the sweep seconds.
Right.
I would probably go with sub-seconds.
I love the sub. Yeah, I like the sub.
Such a great piece. You're giving up water resistance and shock resistance by going with a vintage piece.
Okay.
But
I'm not taking this swimming anyway.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
It's okay.
This is somewhat water resistant and somewhat shock resistant. So if you're traveling a lot with your life, this would be kind of an easier watch to get through the day. But a 570, and you could pay important money for a 570 now too. So this is a watch in the mid-20s today on the secondary market. A nice 570 in white, you're going to pay $30,000 plus for something because you need a great dial with a nice original dial and crisp case, easily 30 plus.
Yeah, this is spectacular.
Yeah, I could see you pulling that off.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, what else do we have here?
The next is in honor of Dayton, Ohio.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, we're going complicated here.
Yes, I wanted to take a travel time.
Yeah.
I had a vintage travel time, 2597. Another great suggestion.
Oh, my goodness.
But just sold it, sadly. But here I have a incredible travel time, 5134 in rose gold. And this is about 10 years, actually 12 years old now, this 5134. And this tells you your home time and your travel time. So you'll be able to know
So dual time zone.
It's dual time zone with the 2 hour hands. I assume is Dayton 1 hour back from New York time?
Dayton's Eastern.
It's Eastern time. Okay, easy. So you'll know what time it is in LA when you don't want to take that time to subtract 3 hours. And at a glance,
I'll tell you, this is, again, I told you, I'm not a huge, I don't know a ton about Patek because it's just been intimidating to me, you know? This is not a dial layout I see very often, you know, with the 3 and the 9 and the more chunky numerals.
yes,
Like it's unique.
this is like a wine tasting now. I like this.
But I mean, like, is this something that they've done a lot for travel times, or was this
when
new
the
at the time?
5134 came out, I bought one of the original ones. I love it. I love wearing it. I
When did
bought
it
a
come
white
out?
gold one in like 2002 or 3.
with this layout.
Not with this dial. The original had a white dial with applied gold Breguet numerals. This came out circa like 2007, 2008 with this new, I'd call it a, they tried, it's almost vintage and modern at the same time. It's a sector dial with it's Dauphine hands and just the 9 and 3 Arabic with batons. It gave it almost a more like 1950s retro appeal.
Yeah.
I actually like this style better than the original with the white dial.
And it's got those Nautilus wings.
Yes.
A little bit, you know.
Those are the push buttons for forward and backward.
Oh,
For the
these are the
hours.
buttons. Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
So the original.
This sets the second time.
Yeah,
zone?
yeah. You push it too, so you'll see the time zone.
Can I push it?
Of course, of course.
Oh yeah. Ah.
So the original before the 5134 and push the bottom one.
Yeah.
To go back.
That's really cool.
Was something called the 5034, and that had a hobnail bezel and these tiny little cabochoned. It's almost dainty in retrospect. Travel time buttons, but the whole idea of traveling is you something more robust. So that's why they changed it with the 5134 to integrate those buttons into the case. Aesthetically, I think it really works.
It really does.
Functionally,
so cool.
It really works. It's not a watch you see often. Like your reaction is typical. Not a lot of people have seen this dial, and the price points are really tempting for these. I mean, these are in the high 20s today for a complicated.
And it's a complicated watch,
which will soon be vintage. Which is
and I like this kind of the skeletonized. Would that be like kind of
the home hand?
GMT? Yeah, that's the home hand. Or you could do it.
Yes, either.
Yeah,
that's the home hand. So
that's really cool.
So I could see you wearing that. Once again, 37 millimeters, which I think is the right.
Is that
size.
the sweet spot?
Yes. Yeah. But I wanted to bring something out, which I'm sure you've seen before. The reference 5070, and this is from 1999. And when the 5070 chronograph came out, you saw the original watch that inspired this design at the Patek Philippe Museum. It was originally a flight watch. It was meant to be worn on top of your flight suit, so you could tell the time. When Patek Philippe brought this out in the late 1990s, it was a huge watch, 42 millimeters for a Patek Philippe, and they look at that. That's a good size for you too. They made it originally with black dial and yellow gold in honor of the one at the museum, and it is just a classic chronograph. 5070s have taken on a life of their own since they've been out the last 27 years. Platinum prices have gone nuts for 5070s and platinum, but the yellow, the original, and I think there's less than 1,000 of these were ever made.
Really?
They're still attractively priced. This is under 70,000, and you get a big watch and something that I think is worth passing on to the next generation.
And this is a chrono.
Yep, simple chronograph.
Wow. Display back, very cool. You can see what's going on in there. These are, the movements are so beautiful. Wow.
So here we have 7 pieces from very different. I have my top 2 picks for you.
I think I do too. I think I do too.
All right, you tell me.
Well,
what speaks to you?
I mean, the 3700, obviously, of course, and the Calatrava, like simple, and maybe the ellipse in the blue.
Blue dial.
Yeah, in the
Yes.
blue.
Yep.
But I feel like any one of those you could wear without being afraid, of they're rugged. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to go climb mountains or dive, but like I don't have to be afraid of clapping.
Yes.
They could be an everyday watch. You could dress them up, you could dress them down. Like they're versatile. And I feel like for a first foray into Patek, I think any one of these would be the right. And then I think you earn the right to go complicated. You know what I mean? You build to complicated.
Yes, and you really have to earn the right to go quartz. Save that for another day.
That's way later. But I think that I think that any one of these kind of time onlys would be the way to go.
All right, 5196, 3700. Decisions have been made.
Yeah.
We'll talk off camera.
Okay. Absolutely.
But with that, Fred, this was so much fun.
John, I could talk to you forever. It really is. It's such a pleasure.
You're an icon. You're a gift to the watch community now, and what you're doing is really changing the game for a lot of us. And hopefully, new collectors will come in, and many people can learn from your journey and make crestfallen become the word.
We'll erase it.
All began.
We're going to erase it.
We're going to erase that
from the vocabulary of the watch community. Absolutely.
All right. Thanks again, Fred.
It's a pleasure, John. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I want to thank you, our listeners. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe so that you do not miss any future episodes.
Treat yourself, guys. Really, every episode is amazing. I highly suggest subscribing.
We need to have you come back again to discuss. I want to know, once you have the first sampling of 100 Patek Philippe watches, what you've discovered. Because the next Steel 1518 could be coming through you.
We'll call you to consult.
We'll talk about that.
100%. But yes, I would love to come back with findings and trends and what we've found.
Oh, well, let's see.
Okay.
All right, fingers crossed.
Absolutely.
This is John Reardon for Collectability.